Hey everyone, this is Thursday evening. Welcome to Humanity Chats. I am Marjy Marjy and I am your host. Tonight we're going to be talking to a very well-accomplished woman. Her name is Isha Sesay. She is, you know what, when she comes on, she's going to tell you all about some of the great stuff she's been doing. This is a woman who has met Michelle Obama. She has worked at CNN. She was an international CNN news anchor. So she knows a lot about journalism, and it is such an honor to have her here. I could not believe that Isha wanted to come on this show. She has been so gracious. Once again, this is Humanity Chats. And, you know, I wanted to give a shout out to Kua in Ghana. I'm wearing a Kua necklace today. Ruby Boa, she is so talented. So if you're in Ghana, West Africa, stop by her shop. She's at Osu. And also, she does have an online shop where you can purchase her stuff in Atlanta, Georgia. You order it and it gets shipped directly to you. So support Kua. Guys, we're going to have Isha. We're going to learn about her experience with the COVID-19 global pandemic. And also, she has been interviewing a lot of people. And so we're going to learn about that. And we're also going to learn about how involved she has been with the police brutality in Nigeria. As some of you may know, there is this End SARS hashtag out there. So Isha will tell us a little bit about that. And she has a book, y'all. She wrote a powerful book, Uplifting Girls, and she's going to tell us a little bit about that as well. So thank you so much for watching. Thank you for joining. Let us know where you're joining from. Put it in the chat room. And also, if you're here, share this with your network. I'm on a different device as always, so I'm not able to share this, but please do. We are on Twitter, we are on Facebook, we are on YouTube. Share this with your network. Tell your friend to tell a friend, and you know, you can always share the recording also. Humanity Chats is available on all the major podcasts, so subscribe. And now we're getting ready to bring Isha into the house. Let's go.
Hi.
Hey, hi Isha.
Hi, Marjy Marjy. How are you doing?
I'm good. It's good to see you today. I am so honored to have you on the show.
It's so kind of you to invite me. I am absolutely thrilled to spend some time with you. Thank you. And thank you for being a constant supporter of my work. I'm so grateful.
Well, you are so welcome, Isha. Now, I know the viewers want to learn a little bit more about you. So would you like to tell us a little bit about Isha, what you like to do, your favorite food, music, all that juicy stuff?
All that juicy stuff. I'll start with straightforward biographical stuff. I am of Sierra Leonean descent. I was born in the UK and moved to Sierra Leone when I was 7 and lived there till I was 16, and have lived in multiple places, most recently and currently in the US. I live in Los Angeles. I've been here in LA for about 5 years, in the US as a whole for almost 15 years. I'm a journalist, I'm an author, I'm an activist working on issues around girls and gender equity. I am someone who enjoys a good film, a good book, who loves hanging out with friends, enjoys traveling, has taken up cooking during this lockdown time, trying to cook a lot more, and generally somebody who believes that if you've been given a platform, you have a responsibility to use it for good.
Well, thank you for sharing that, and thank you for all the good that you're doing. Now, since you've taken up cooking, maybe when I come to LA someday, you can cook for me. Yeah.
Come on. I mean, it's I'm amazed by how how happy I am about having to cook now. You know, before, when I worked at CNN, I was at the network for almost 13 years. Food became just something that was easily kind of cut out. You're just working all the time, and sometimes you forget to eat. Sometimes you just eat what's available. And a lot of time it's takeout. But now I really got into a place where I actually look forward to figuring out what I'm going to cook and making sure that it's healthy and just cook the way I want to cook it. And I'm kind of surprised by myself.
Well, that's amazing that you have a hobby that you love. Now you mentioned CNN. Would you mind telling us what your most memorable interview at CNN was?
Gosh, I think it all depends on the context. I mean, I was there for 13 years, and then I worked at CNN International as an anchor, and anchored perhaps probably almost every hour or every time frames. I did mornings, I did afternoons, I did evenings. By the time I finished, I was working out of LA, and we did late evening LA, which was Europe morning. And it's hard to say because, you know, there's so many, you know, from, you know, world leaders to, you know, celebrities. I'm trying to think of my favorite interview. I mean, I tend to value the interviews I did that were the most combative, but that just speaks to me. And so perhaps all the interviews I did around the Nigerian schoolgirls are perhaps the ones I'm most proud of. In terms of a body of work, as you know, the intention was to fight to get the facts and understand what really happened in northeastern Nigeria, where almost 300 girls were taken. I think that's always been important. All the work I've done around, you know, the UN and all of those interviews, and, you know, interviewing people like Bill Gates, and, you know, I mean, it's a Bill Gates, Nancy Pelosi, David Beckham, Bono. I mean, a whole bunch of people, and it's a long list of people.
Yes, it is a long, impressive list. I am so proud of you. But, you know, as you're talking about the girls in Nigeria, that brings me to your book, Beneath the Tamarind Tree. Would you want to tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, it's a book that was really, I describe quite often as a labor of love. I felt that even though CNN did tremendous work on that story in terms of really pushing it to the forefront, and it's only in the international audience. I always am very keen to stress that Nigerians on the ground, and particularly the Bring Back Our Girls movement, they were doing a lot of work already in Nigeria to move the story forward and to get people's attention. And I think credit must go to them first and foremost. On the international media side, I think CNN really led the way in terms of pushing the story forward. And I was part of that team that really, myself, Nema Al-Bagar, our Damon, Vlad Dutier, all of us working to understand what truly happened. There was one narrative that, you know, girls weren't taken. That was the first time it came out. They weren't taken. How many girls were taken? There was all this confusion. And we worked hard to tell the story as best we could. And then the story faded from public view, because that's what happens when it's global media and there's so much happening. I felt a book was the best way to pick the story up again and to really pay tribute to girls who had come back and girls who are still missing. And I really wanted to write a book that brought to life some of their individual stories. And because I'd stayed on the story from 2014 till now, 2020, I'm still in contact with people in the Chibok community. I wanted people to understand that when the African girls' lives matter, and I know we use that kind of phraseology a lot, but I do think that there's too readily a kind of acceptance of tragedy taking place in Africa and saying, oh, that's the way it goes, and people lost their life, it happens. And I wanted to really put a face and biographical detail to some of these girls, so you kind of felt you got to know them. And so the book is a definitive account of what happened the night they were taken, and what happened to several of them during the journey as they were swept away from their families and years in captivity, and my efforts as a journalist to keep track of the story.
Wow. Wow. Those girls needed for their story to be told. I mean, it was all over the media, and then in a heartbeat, it was like everybody had forgotten about it. So thank you. Thank you so much for telling their story.
And listen, I also want to make clear that, and I feel it's important to say, 276 girls were taken. There's still 112 who are missing, who still have not returned to their loving families. Many parents have died out of the shock and heartbreak, stress-related illnesses. There are many, many stories to be told of the girls who have come back, of the 107 who are back. And I think there are many more stories to be told. Mine is just one book, and I don't want to claim that it's the only viewpoint of the story to be told. I think more of the girls, if they're able, should speak in their own voice of what they went through.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. And I'm pretty sure, knowing your nature, you are still in touch with people in Nigeria, trying, working hard for these girls.
Still working on it, still seeing what we can do. And really, really concerned that with COVID now, that, the chances of getting however many could be brought back is fading. Especially as Nigeria goes through so much turmoil, it becomes even less of a priority for the government. And so it's tough. It's tough. I think about them all the time. I think about how their lives have changed and how, I'm sure home is a very distant idea to many of them now.
Oh my God, yes, it is tough. And that brings me to you mentioned COVID, so it brings me to my next question, which is the COVID-19 global response. Over the summer, I saw that you covered that extensively, because when we turned on the TV here in the United States, we were mostly hearing just the US news or a little bit about Europe, but we were not hearing about the other continents. Would you want to tell us a little bit about your coverage, what you learned, what the way forward is?
Yeah, I mean, I think that, that was why I decided to use my time in lockdown to broadcast. I think we sit at this amazing moment where with technology, we can do these shows from our homes as you and I are speaking now. And I felt that we didn't and we don't have to wait for international media organizations to choose to shine their light on our stories, and specifically in this context, African stories, that we can use the technology to tell them ourselves. And so after watching, global media for days on end and just seeing barely any coverage of the continent, I decided that I would do a show called Home with Isha Sesay that would specifically focus on what COVID means for Africa. And so the show was essentially interviews with scientists, epidemiologists, doctors, medical doctors, people who were working in tech and creating new applications to respond to the crisis, ordinary people who were helping those in need and standing in the gaps that had opened up in the pandemic. And I think what I took from it was I think I was most struck and most impressed by just how well our leaders, by and large, responded with a speed to basically close their countries and shut their borders down, which comes with a huge economic cost, but at the same time, until we had a better sense of the disease, I think was the only thing to be done, right? Because at that point, all we could see was that northern Italy, huge numbers of people had died there. We were watching it sweep across the globe and claiming lives, and we didn't know how it was going to affect Africa. And so African leaders really en masse really shut the continent down, and really, in as much as they could, prepared for this wave, which it's fascinating to me, it just did not manifest in the way we thought it would. Yes, Northern Africa had significant cases, South Africa had significant cases, and don't get me wrong, any death is a death that we don't want to see. But the numbers that people had projected of death on the continent, it just never manifested. You could say that, okay, well, it's probably because they weren't testing. You're absolutely right. Testing has been woeful and inadequate on the continent. And that has partly been because they just could not get the tests. Africa was just being pushed out of the market for tests. But you can't hide mass death. I mean, that's just something you can't hide. So testing or no testing, for some reason, COVID in Africa just has not proven to be as deadly to date as people had said it would be. And that is something that we're still trying to understand why that is. Is it some kind of latent immunity acquired from vaccinations from other things? Is it immunity picked up from all the other viruses? Nobody quite knows what it is. We don't necessarily think, does it because it's weakened, the virus is weakened in the heat? And we don't really know. But I think what I took from the show was just the number of people number of Africans who are working to create African solutions for a problem as it specifically pertained to Africa.
Yeah, it is impressive. I mean, I know people going to Ghana, they have to get their COVID-19 test here. And then when they arrive in Ghana, they have to get another test before entering the country. I mean, the rules are strict. And I know celebrities who were put in quarantine when they got back to the country.
As they should be. As they absolutely should be. They should be. I mean, we should have rules. Whereas in the US, I just got back from England about 3 weeks ago. I just walked in, showed my passport, and they were like, "Welcome home."
Yes. And people just don't understand that there's all these strict rules that other people are, I don't get it. You have to go through all these stringent rules to go to Africa, but when you're coming from Africa to America, you just walk in.
I think this country's response to COVID has just been, it's been mind-boggling. I mean, I seem to spend far too much of every day, and that has been the case since early March, just trying to understand how the wealthiest nation in the world could be in a place of over 200,000 deaths and approaching almost 9 million cases of COVID today as we speak. And people are saying that epidemiologists and this country's top infectious disease doctor, Anthony Fauci, is saying the worst is yet to come. I can't quite fathom it.
I shudder. We all have to stay prayed and be very careful.
Oh, absolutely. Prayer is everything. Prayer and your mask and washing your hands and just staying away from folk. If you don't need to be around folk, don't be around folk.
I know, sis. Preach it. Now that brings me to your show, Home with Isha Sesay. Guys, you've got to subscribe to Isha's YouTube channel.
Well, we're on pause right now. I have to say we're on hiatus at the moment because I was in London, and I actually went to London to work on a second book and then came back because London was going mad with COVID. And I thought I'd much rather be back in my apartment in LA and deal with whatever this pandemic brings. And so we're just trying to figure out next steps in terms of Home with Isha Sesay. Listen, it's hard to know what we're going to do next with the show, to be really transparent, because the show was born out of this sense of crisis on the continent with COVID. And there isn't one. Now, that's not to say that we shouldn't still take it seriously. And cases have started going up again in Kenya and in Northern Africa. But it's just such an interesting, we anticipated, at least the projections from, epidemiologists was that, and watchers, that there was going to be panic and the hospitals would be overrun and people would be dying in the streets. Our leaders, by and large, and as much as we can, they're dealing with it. So I'm trying to figure out whether that specific show in that specific incarnation is what's needed, or whether it's something else. So I'll keep you posted.
Yes, please keep me posted with what it's going to evolve to. And as I'm sitting here, my fingers, my toes, everything is crossed for Africa to stay on the right track
on this course. I mean, that's the thing. And I think you make an important point that I need to stress, that to date, this is what we've experienced. We don't know what comes next, right? And we pray that it stays as far as it has low mortality rates on the continent. We don't want anyone to catch it. We don't want anyone to die. That is not, no one's being flippant. But we hope that that's how it stays and doesn't mutate into something else. We don't know.
Yes. Now I see that we have a lot of comments from our viewers. Viewers, we're gonna get to you. We're gonna look at your comments, but Aisha's gonna be telling us about the police brutality in Nigeria that she has been covering recently. Do you want to tell us a little bit more so that people get familiar with what's happening in Nigeria right now?
Yeah, I mean, so basically, almost, I want to say 3.5 weeks ago, roughly, maybe just over 3.5 weeks ago, a video emerged in Nigeria on social media that appeared to show the murder of a young man by the Special Anti-Robbery Squad, SARS, which is a special unit of the Nigerian police that had been set up basically a couple of decades ago, 1984, although I've seen some dates that say in the 1990s, but 1984 or so, it was set up by the government to really tackle violent robbery and the increase of violent crime. And over the decades, this special unit has really just metastasized into a unit that has widely been accused of extrajudicial murder, rape, detention, robbery, extortion, just a law unto itself. Rights groups like Amnesty International have documented abuses, and it's been widely the complaints and the sense of terror being brought about by this group have been a subject of much consternation in Nigeria for many, many years. And finally, about 3.5 weeks ago, over a month ago, once this video came out, it sparked something in the youth of Nigeria, who basically just felt like enough is enough of being in a country where there's this unit, which, again, it's widely documented, widely reported. If you drove a nice car or had a nice cell phone or appeared wealthy, you could become the target of these police officers who would stop you and harass you, and who knows what could come next. And finally, it just grew, and the protest grew from they wanted to see this unit disbanded to, then the country as a whole, needs reform, and it became about ending corruption and just everything, bad governance, and it just grew in numbers across the country. And I had been trying to figure out the best way to bring light to the story, and then decided because we finished the show last week, so it would have been like a Sunday ago, as I was going to sleep at 3 a.m, I decided that I would do a week of special shows on IG focused on the protests. And I partnered with Bella Naija, the big media platform in Nigeria, and took over their Instagram account for the week. What I could never have foreseen when I decided to start the motion of getting crew and producer and people to book guests, I could never have foreseen that it would be the week that the Lekki toll gate shootings took place, or that it would be the week that President Buhari made that, as I would call it, tone-deaf speech to a nation in crisis. So I suddenly found myself interviewing individuals who spoke directly to what they'd experienced at the hands of SARS. And mind you, I also should point out that the government had said that they were disbanding SARS, but really they also said that all the police would remain police officers and would just be moved to different units. And everyone was like, well, you're not holding anyone accountable, so nothing's really changed. You're just losing the name and creating another unit. It's the same thing. So I found myself interviewing, people who had been victims of SARS, and then also people who were there at Lekki Tollgate, who spoke of what they saw and what they experienced.
Wow. Thank you for doing this. And yeah, I did read about some of those comments, and I was just wondering what the leaders were thinking. Sometimes it's unbelievable how tone deaf sometimes the leaders can be. And I really hope that Nigeria would be able to survive this and would be able to restructure their police and halt all the brutality and
we want Nigeria to thrive. I'm always, I've done a lot of work in Nigeria. I've covered Nigeria a lot. I have a lot of very close Nigerian friends, and more than that, I think Nigeria holds such wonderful promise for the continent as a whole. Like that energy and verve that Nigerians have, and their desire to succeed and win. Like I spend my time thinking, I wish more places had this like drive and this hunger to move forward. It's incredible. We want it to thrive. It's the most populous nation on the continent. It has the largest economy. It is so important in terms of fighting terror, and it's geopolitically important. It's economically important. It's culturally important. We want it to do well. So nobody's taking any pleasure from what's going on in Nigeria at present. If anything, we're actually all really deeply distressed. And also Nigeria, when my mother took ill, I took her to Nigeria for surgery. And so they've been very kind to me. So we want it to do well. We want it to do better. And we want its youth to be able to protest safely. And we want them to be able to ask for change and progress without being shot at. They deserve that.
Yeah. Our youth all over Africa deserve better. But you know what? I would like to know a little bit more about your upcoming book. But before we do that, I just wanted to share that we have viewers from all over. We have Charlotte, North Carolina. Oh my God, we have Accra, Ghana, West Africa. We have Morrisville, North Carolina. This is amazing. We have Canada in the house. Florida. Oh my goodness.
Hi everyone. Thank you for coming in.
You have, this is a councilman from Portland, Maine. He's the first
Portland, Maine this year.
Yeah, he's the first African Muslim councilman. Look, we have Florida again. Goodness, New York. Yes, that is representation.
Thank you.
Somebody is saying that they're proud of you. Go, Aisha.
Thank you.
And Georgia.
I live in Georgia.
Yeah, I could go on and on. I'm sorry, guys. We can't highlight everybody because we are pressed for time. People are thanking you for the girls.
Thank you, everyone, for all.
Yes, Aisha. You have a lot of love out there.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Viewers. You are the show. And so, Aisha, you said you were working on your book. I know, don't spill the beans, but now I'm excited because you have a second book coming out. When is it coming out?
Oh, gosh, I don't even know when I'm going to sit down and write it now. I am right. This one is it's going to be a collection of essays. It's not going to, and specifically I'm focusing on providing a perspective on Blackness, but through an African lens and an African female lens, and what that means for operating in the US in media and through life and society as structured here in America, because it's a very unique experience. Even though we embrace our African American brothers and sisters, there's a distinction, in terms of our experiences and what we bring from the continent to here. And I'm interested in looking at some of that and just kind of analyzing it. So it will be in my own voice, it will be personal, but it will also merge, a look at culture, a look at, policy, a look at, it's going to be a merge of things. For instance, one of the things I'm interested in looking at is just the way African Americans embrace something like Black Panther and what it meant to them versus what it meant to us as Africans who understand. It's just some of those kind of cultural nuances and the depiction of Africa in the media in the West, and just interesting things like that. Things that interest me, that have caught my attention, I'll be writing essays on.
Yeah, and you'd probably want to interview some Africans that have also assimilated and are living and probably excelling here, right?
Yeah, I mean, I'm still trying to work out the format. I think if anybody has read Ta-Nehisi Coates' We Were 8 Years in Power, which I think is tremendous, and we just bow to Ta-Nehisi and all his work, a tremendous journalist and author, probably in that vein. So I'm looking at the structure. I'm just doing a lot of reading, but I've been sidetracked by another project for now. So I'll tell you about that one when I can.
Well, keep going. We're going to follow up on IG and talk about a little bit more juicy stuff. So guys, after this show, meet us on Instagram. You get to hear a little bit more of the details. Now, Isha, this has been wonderful, pouring your heart out, getting to know you a little bit better. I'm excited about your cooking.
I feel like I may have oversold that. So we'll get takeout when you come.
I see there are more comments popping up. Thank you, Sylvia. Thank you, everybody, viewers. Thank you for joining us. I'd like to tell you a little bit about next week's show. Next up, we're going to be celebrating Mary L. Thomas, Chief Operating Officer of the Spartanburg County Foundation. She was just named the board, the chairman of the board for Appella Health. And so it's going to be a celebration of Mary Thomas. Yes, she made history. Special guest that evening. We're going to have Troy Hanna, who is the CEO of the County Foundation. And we're going to have Marcus Thomas, who is the CEO of the Thomas Consulting Group. We are also going to have a special prayer, since it's going to be right after our elections. We're going to have a special prayer from Bishop Charles Jackson. And so, guys, join us on Humanity Chats. It's a conversation about everyday issues that impact humans. We are glad that Isha joined us today. Follow us on social media, Marjy TV. Subscribe to our YouTube, out on all the podcasts, all the major podcasts. Find us. And yeah, I'm doing that whole spiel, Isha.
Do it. Do it.
Yeah. So guys, thank you so much. We're going to sign off here. I'm going to jump onto Instagram. We will see you next week with Mary Thomas. And it's been a pleasure. Thank you. Thanks everybody from Isha and myself.
Fine. Thank you all. Be safe. Take care.
Bye.